Welcome to Sachs Realty's Tuesday Night Podcast, where we talk about anything and everything real estate. Each week, we deliver expert information enabling you to make better informed decisions while keeping more money in your pocket. If you're interested in real estate, this is your show. All right, guys, welcome to our Tuesday Night Podcast. And well, I tell you what, it's been a very long time since I've been nervous about doing a live stream.
Yeah, but this is a good one.
Oh man, I tell you what, I have like butterflies in my stomach. So we're going to try and get through this one, guys. We are talking about two major lawsuits that could change the way we transact real estate forever and ever. Mm-hmm. Amen. I think that's a Randy Travis song. For those of you that know Randy Travis. Mm-hmm. But anyway, yeah. I'm sure that I'm going to piss somebody off in this freaking podcast tonight. I could tell you. I don't want to. I'm going to try and be as candid as I can about it. And not to mention that I had to have multiple conversations with our attorney today to kind of, say like, hey, we want to kind of talk about this, address this issue. It's a hot topic. I think a lot of agents are kind of burying their heads in the sand on this, but I'm not. I look at it and I go, okay, this is something that's been going on for quite some time. These lawsuits have been hanging out there, I think the one since 2015. So we're going to talk about this tonight, guys. And kind of give you my professional opinion. We've got a little disclosure that we'll get going across here. I am not an attorney, guys. So I am basically giving you my professional opinions on my personal opinions on this. I see a disclosure up on the screen here, but we're going to dive in. We will. Excuse me. We love to have your questions and comments on this. And so, please comment them in. There's a poll. I don't even know. It looks like the result of the poll, basically, we were asking the public at large, and I value your opinion, but we were asking the public kind of like, do you think real estate agents in general have the client's best interest or their own best interest? And I'm already looking at this poll, and it is sadly weighted. Your opinions are that you think that real estate agents are thinking about themselves most of the transaction. And so we're going to talk about this in a very candid fashion. And let's just kind of dive in.
Yeah. This article we're going to review with you in just a moment kind of dug into the class action lawsuit and came out yesterday, actually. Two of them. So we're going to review that, going to kind of read through it to give you an idea of exactly what's going on if you are unaware and keep you up to speed. So we're going to start off here. I'm just going to kind of read through it, and then we're going to stop and pause, and Todd's going to give his thoughts, and we'll both chime in. But please keep those questions and comments coming, because maybe you don't know about this, maybe you do, maybe you have some insight and thoughts about it. So please,
maybe you're an agent.
And let us know what you think about it. But to start off, it goes in saying, let's say you're ready to sell your house, trying to find a buyer, and sifting through offers sounds like a nightmare. So you hire a real estate agent. In exchange for their guidance, you agree to pay the agent 3% of the sale price, which they say is industry standard. Your agent advises you that in order to drum up sufficient interest in your home, you should also promise to cover the commission for the buyer's agent, another 3% of the sales price. Goes on to say, this seems like a hefty chunk of change, but you go along with the setup since you almost certainly couldn't navigate the transaction without some professional help. You get some glossy photos taken, hang a sign in the front yard, and wait for the offers to pour in. When the deal closes, however, you don't cut a check to both agents. Instead, you give 6% of your proceeds to your agent, who then splits that with the buyer's broker. As the money makes its way to all players in the transaction, you may wonder, why does it work this way? According to the plaintiffs of two massive class action lawsuits, the circuitous method of paying real estate agents is all part of a far-reaching scheme that is bilking home sellers out of billions of dollars every year.
Yeah. So I guess the first problem that I have with this article, and you're going to get both sides of, you're going to get my, my honest opinion on this. But, if we're starting off, this article is laying a foundation, is very one-sided, which I understand. I mean, they're covering the lawsuit, but the issue is that, we are taught in broker school, at least I was here in Maryland, that commissions are negotiable. And, we never use the term standard, industry standard, the average, the typical, things like that, because and the way that we train our agents is that our commission is negotiable and is between the seller and our brokerage. So I never want to hear people saying that the average or industry standard. And I know that there are probably agents that say that, and I've heard it myself. But, first and foremost, that everybody needs to know that commissions are completely negotiable, at least at Sachs Realty. So, and that's the way that it should be. That's the way that I was taught. But, so what happens is, it's kind of a precarious situation. And I'm going to talk from the, not as an attorney, but as a licensed real estate broker here in the state of Maryland, and tell you the way our contracts are written is between the brokerage and the seller. Okay. But I can tell you that, kind of lost my train of thought there, but as far as, when someone is selling their house and they're offering a commission, going back before, and I'm talking about Maryland, before we had buyer agency, everybody worked for the seller. So there was no buyer agency. And what happened was, that wasn't fair either, right? Back in the day, I mean, whoever, complained or how they changed the law was something to the effect of, prior to buyer agency here in Maryland, your agent, as a buyer's, you want to buy a house, your agent represented the seller, even though they didn't even know who they were, because the seller was paying the commission. But then somewhere along the line, they said that's not really fair. A buyer should have a representative. In Maryland, I'm talking about, buyers should have a representative for them, and they should be able to sign an agency agreement with them, and have confidentiality and a fiduciary. Mm-hmm. So the way that it works is that, as a listing brokerage, my contract is with the seller. I determine what I'm going to pay, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I determine what I'm going to pay a buyer's agent. That's something I deal with my agreement with my seller, right? I negotiate my fee, and then, in that contract, it talks about what I'm willing to cooperate. It's called a cooperating agent fee, and we're going to get more into this because, this lawsuit, though, I think there's, I think that people that say that this isn't going to stick, or that there's no way that this could possibly win, I think they're, like I said earlier, I think they're burying their head in the sand. But I just wanted to quickly say, and I also want to say that this circuitous of this word that they're using of method of paying real estate agents, this is where the issue really comes down to, because what they're really saying in that statement is that there's a dishonest measure, or not a forthright of the buyer's commission. And a lot of people say that, and a lot of buyer's agents have said, not to me, but this is reported, that they're providing services for free for the buyer, and that's just not true, right? They're getting paid. So in any of the statements or whatever that they've collected for this lawsuit, if that's the case, that would be wrong. But to give an illusion that buyer services are free.
Right.
So, I mean, we have a buyer agency agreement in there specifically addresses, and the way our buyer agency agreement is here in Maryland is we agree to represent them so long as the buyer agrees to be represented. We're statutory state, we enter into a buyer agency agreement. And then in that agreement, it basically has the percentage of commission and any administrative fees or whatever that are associated, and the buyer signs that. And so, and I think the issue is, how that form is being filled out. And in some states, you can have dual agency within an agent, like Virginia, for instance. One agent can represent both the buyer and the seller in a transaction. I completely disagree with that ability to even take place. I don't personally believe that you can be a fiduciary to two competing parties in a transaction.
Yeah.
They're competing. The seller wants the most amount of money. The buyer wants to pay the least amount of money. But let's continue, and then we're going to take some questions. We're going to dive in. This is going to get pretty hot and heavy. And if you're a real estate agent, you may or may not like what I'm going to say here today. And if you're a buyer or seller, I mean, you may feel the same way. It's a controversial issue. Again, I appreciate you guys for logging on and listening to this. It's a hot topic, and you are going to hear more about it as time moves on, because there's been a lot of green lights where courts, and not just in this case. I was reading about another case that includes National Association of Realtors and Zillow. And I think that they just got the green light to proceed on that as well. You can Google it. That's what I did. I think, should this thing start to get legs and start to pick up speed, I don't think anybody is exempt.
Yeah.
If you're in this business as a broker or a agent, I think that these issues, regardless of the outcome, whether the court side for the plaintiffs or the defendants, I think the good thing is that we're bringing it to the surface. It's been like kind of hocus pocus to talk about. Me podcasting has been hocus pocus. If you go, not that our podcast is hocus pocus, but we're talking about things that brokers don't usually come on and say, right? Transparency,
Yep.
right? And that's it. So, when we started doing this a couple of years ago, a lot of people were like, why are you telling people this? Or why are you, saying don't buy yet, or this is happening, or that's happening? We're just trying to bring professional information that what we believe, they're our beliefs, they're our opinions. So listen to who you want. But that's why we are doing this show, to try and educate people and kind of bring some light to something that hasn't been talked about. And
with it being a class action lawsuit, it is something to take seriously. I mean, this is not just something that's willy-nilly. I mean, it's very serious, and we're going to go on and continue talking about it.
Yeah.
The article. But the article goes on to say, the heart of the problem, according to the lawsuits, are the multiple listing services, local online databases where agents share photos and detailed information about homes for sale. The MLSs are a central component of the U.S. real estate market and the most critical tools that allow licensed agents have at their disposal. In fact, they're one of the most persuasive reasons for even hiring an agent in the first place. The article goes on to say, in order to access an MLS, listing agents must agree that money from the sale will follow the prescribed serpentine path. But now two multi-billion-dollar lawsuits, Sitzer versus NAR, and I think it's Maury as well versus NAR, threaten to upend the entire system. The plaintiffs, representing a large swath of home sellers around the country, are accusing the National Association of Realtors and some of the country's largest brokerages of using MLS rules to charge exorbitant fees and unfairly prop up agent commissions.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this, in my opinion, can't be farther from the truth. First of all, there are a lot of companies out there now that you can get your home listed on the MLS by just basically paying a flat fee.
Yeah.
You can do that. You can also, there's plenty of multiple lists out there for sale by owner, right? And so anybody can do that. It's not, you don't have to get, the reason why this article goes on to say, I mean, obviously they're good and bad agents, but the reason why, I mean, I'm in a my career has been, full of deals that, without having professional representation, it would have gone completely disastrous. And, we basically earn our money is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that everybody does. And in this market, I think the hottest topic is that, multiple offers just kind of streamed in. And we're going to talk about that too. We're going to talk about how I feel that a lot of buyers didn't get the representation that maybe they would hoped for or signed up for. And right now, the Real Estate Commission, here in Maryland, and I'm sure in other parts of the country, are riddled with complaints of buyers that are just really upset. They've got buyer remorse, and they felt like they were misguided. I talked to home inspectors that say things that they hear in these home inspections where agents are saying, don't worry about that. I got a guy. If you ask for that, the deal's going to die. I mean, these are people that are supposed to be representing them. But as far as the reason why you hire an agent is, and look, this is the consumer's problem to, fault too here. Because, as I said, you have to interview your agents. A lot of these consumers, buyers, they don't even interview their agent. They just go with their friend or their sister.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying not use your friend or sister, but you should be interviewing. You should know who you're hiring. So a lot of the people, a lot of these buyers and sellers, they don't want to own up to their own responsibilities of just doing bad hiring. And, or maybe that agent just let them be the dictator of the way things should be. But getting your property on the MLS is not the reason why you hire a real estate agent. And we're going to talk about how this article goes on to say about steering, and we'll kind of address that as well. But Melissa, talk about what started this one lawsuit. The sellers were very upset. Let's kind of tell the public about that.
So there were these two owners they bought a house together, and they listed their home for sale, and the buyer's agent came in and did negotiations, and they actually ended up selling their home. I think it was for approximately it
was $10,000.
$10,000 less, around there. And they ended up having to pay $17,000 roughly in commissions to the buyer's agent. And they were upset. They're like, we got less than what we asked for. We don't feel this is fair. And now we're essentially paying you for getting us less money than we wanted. So they felt it was unjust and unfair. And so they went on and filed this lawsuit. And not only that, this class action lawsuit includes all similar home sellers that listed their property starting from April 29th of 2015. So this is an enormous amount of people that did business within these 4 MLSs within that region.
Yep. No,
So-
I hear you. And but again, the issue's coming. You've got a seller that may have overpriced their house.
Yeah.
You have a buyer. I mean, a home is only worth what someone's willing to pay.
True.
And if you agree with a percentage of the selling price and you're pissed off because you had to take $10,000 less to sell your house, if that's all you had and the buyer was coming forth, I mean, I'm sorry, but maybe that's what your house was worth, because your house is only worth what someone's willing to pay, right? But the issue becomes, the percentage is the pro rata share of whatever that selling price seems to be. But this is where the biggest, my understanding, and we sign contracts, so I understand the contract. My understanding is that that's our, when you sell your house with me, you're agreeing to pay me a commission.
Yeah.
There may not even be a buyer's agent. Right. There may not even be a buyer's agent. That doesn't necessarily mean that you can come back to me and say, I only want to, pay a percentage of that because there's no other agent. That is a cooperating fee to the broker, because there has to be a way to clearly define, and we could say that the system's broken, but we're going to argue the other side, because if this goes away, you all buyers out there, you may as well just, hang it up, because you're going to have to pay for your own representation out of pocket and now they're saying, well, and we're going to talk about it, but they'll be able to finance their They're going to finance their commission.
That's what they
the
said,
commission. Let me tell you, when you're getting into negotiations, if a buyer doesn't feel a house is worth X amount of dollars, they're not buying it. They shouldn't be buying it, right? If it doesn't appraise for the money or the purchase price, whatever. I think we're trying to overthink this. Now, if the attack is on, you all feel that commissions are too expensive. Well, competition and, will always seem to bring that down. There are always somebody out there that will provide you services for less money. You can go online and Google that yourself. Like I said, you can hire a brokerage to just list your home. And it's not a full service brokerage, but you're going to show the property. You're going to do X amount of things. You pay them a fee. They'll put your property on. You'll get the same access. You'll be aggregated just like everybody else, right? But you're not buying a full service, a full service deal.
We're also not hearing the other side. And I really hate to say that, but we're only hearing, the side of what is being said here. So, the sellers are unhappy. What is forcing them to, file the lawsuit? So I think that there's always additional information sometimes that's being left out. We're just seeing what's being reported in the news and this article.
Well, as we get into here, we will get into more of the meat of, the what the public is saying at large.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I disagree with all of it. There are certainly arguments in here that I've been preaching when it comes to representation. And for those of you that are in the real estate industry, your professionals, your real estate agents, I mean, we're seeing mass exodus. How many people do you talk to on a daily basis that say, "Oh, I'm going back to work. I'm hanging my license up."
Just yesterday, I just had another conversation with an agent who is, going back to nursing school.
Yeah, these are agents that are in our broker network all over the country.
Yep.
We're not talking about our agents.
No.
But
I have conversations all the time, and this is exactly what's happening.
All right, so do we have any questions that we're
let's
want
just
to address
do
or
that
comments or
really
whatever? We appreciate
quick.
you guys and your candor, and let it rip.
What are your thoughts about Juliet made a comment here? Let the buyer cover their own fee. Better yet, list it yourself on the MLS.
Yeah, I mean we just said that.
Yep.
The buyer's going to be, if they win this lawsuit, believe me, buyers get ready. If you're a buyer's agent and you're only specializing in buyers, you may want to start rethinking your career because, I think that more of this is coming. I don't think there's going to be a stop at this. The DOJ is, pounding on the National Association of REALTORs. I mean, that's a whole other thing that's going on as far as, we won't talk about that now, but.
How about this one, though? I think this is a good question. Why a percentage and not a flat fee?
Some offer flat fees. I mean, negotiate it. I
Yeah.
mean, we're not going to talk about fees and percentages and things like that because, I certainly, I don't want to, get into, violating that. We're not allowed to, what other brokers decide that they want to offer, provide to you for what fee. That's up to you to negotiate. My people better never be saying average rates or this is a standard fee or whatever, because it's just not true.
Mm-hmm. How about this one, Cameron Jenkins? In the bubble, did the sellers make the buyers pay both agents?
In the bubble, did the sellers make the buyer pay both agents? So I did see some of that. Yeah, I have to say that I saw everything happen during the last couple of years. They were making buyers pay costs that it's just crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yep, for
So
sure.
yeah, Cameron, I've definitely seen that.
How about Crime Stoppers here making a comment? This is one reason I prefer dual agency as buyer or seller. The sales commission is cheap for the services rendered. As a seller, I always hire the services of a licensed broker.
Yeah, I mean, again, dual agency. I can be a dual agent as a broker, but I have to have a designated agent for the seller and a designated agent for the buyer. And I can be the dual agent, but between the two licensees, they have to be provide the confidentiality between their protected party or their represented party. I don't believe that an agent should be allowed to have dual agency. I know states allow it, other states. Maryland does not, as far as a real estate agent or a real estate salesperson is the correct definition. And realtor, by the way, is a designation that that you get when you belong to the National Association of Realtors, and you also belong to your state association of realtors and a local board. That's the requirement of being a realtor. There are a lot of brokers out there that they're not realtors, so they don't partake in what the rules or the regulations, and they become basically a different type of subscriber to the MLS. And the difference is that when a brokerage signs up to be, with the associations, we get a lot of things that would save the public money, like contracts, for instance. We have, contracts that are written by, attorneys at the associations, and then being a realtor, which is, the term. It's a 2-syllable word. A lot of even agents want to say realtor. It's not. It's realtor. And basically, you have access to those forms and addendums to where if you didn't have access, that brokerage would have to, hire attorneys to draft these documents for their clients to use. And that would be a cost that would be associated to buyers and sellers. Because let me tell you, I've watched a couple videos on here on this topic, and some of them are covered by attorneys that are saying that real estate brokers and agents are making too much money. Don't come knocking on that door around here. If you want to talk about, being an attorney going online and poo-pooing that agents make too much money, because you got to watch what you're saying, because that could easily come back on you, when you see some of these attorneys that are, they should, in my opinion, they should be paid. But, when they get into these big lawsuits and stuff, and they're getting tons of money, so I don't like to see when attorneys are saying that, agents make too much money. So, yeah. So any more questions before we kind of
we just
continue?
had, I think there were a couple statements in here. Let me just see. This is a good one. A reputable agent will do what it takes to close the home price, even accepting less for a commission with 100%. A seller or a buyer.
100%. Yeah, that's a great. Thank you for chiming in on that.
Yep, absolutely. And then how about this one? With low inventory, it's better to list it yourself. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I mean, it's so, guys, this is the big question. So when you're hiring a listing brokerage or a brokerage to list your home, I mean, you really want an agent that is, has some expertise in the area, because, you really need to have someone that can provide you with comparable sales, preview houses that are, on the market as competition before you list or establish your selling price. It's always good to have somebody to negotiate in the middle, because sellers are so freaking emotionally charged. Yeah. You think that it's your house and it's worth more money because you put Berber carpet in it. And I have news for you, it's not. I mean, if it has carpeting and other houses have carpeting, you have carpeting. But I see so many times where the sellers get so emotionally attached, and I get it. You put your sweat and tears into the house or whatever. But it's good when somebody can be neutral to that emotion and basically help you to navigate through so that you don't make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And a good agent is there to help keep you out of trouble, keep you from getting into a lawsuit.
Yeah, and there was a comment just made here that I thought was awesome. Give me one moment. Get into the deal. Yeah, this one, perfect. I knew I had a good real estate agent when I placed offers and didn't get the deal. If you got the deal on your first go around, you probably got hustled. I mean, that's a very valid point.
Yeah, I mean, the agents that were saying, just pay it, write
Yeah.
the check, skip the inspections, do this, do that. I mean, I questioned, did you even need anybody in the first place? I mean, that's an issue.
Yeah.
Now, if the buyers are like, just want you to do it and go through the motions, then hey, you got what you paid for, right?
Right.
Or when you bought your house. But again, I mean, I think that it comes down to good representation, good agents, and I'm not sad about these agents. Some of these agents leaving the industry. I'm
No.
not sad about it.
No.
I think it's a sort of like a wash, rinse, and repeat cycle.
Someone made a comment that it was a broken system or something along the lines of that, and I think that I think a lot needs to change. And
It is a broken system,
Yeah.
and I tell you why it's broken, because we're missing leadership. So, and this is where when I talked about pissing people off in the beginning of the show, the issue here is, for the most part, brokerages, forget that at the end of the day, it's the customer or the client that we represent. The client is the true customer in the transaction. But the way that the system, one of the things I think is broken, is that these brokers cater to the agent because they're more concerned about agent count,
right.
and than they are, sometimes I feel customer satisfaction.
Yeah.
And, and that's a problem. And that's one of the reasons why we go straight to the consumer and why consumers call us for agents all around the country, and why we connect them with agents around the country is not because, we're catering to the agent. We want to serve the consumers, right? And make sure that they get the best experience possible. And I think that's where we failed a lot, because back in the day, brand really mattered. If we go back, I mean, a friend of mine, right? I mean, we've got a podcast on him, Jim O'Connor,
Yeah.
and he, shout out to Jim. I mean, he sold his brokerage, but he owned a company called O'Connor Piper Flynn back in the day, and their jingle, I loved it, and I'd love to have it for hours, but you just can't do that. There's only one jingle for this company, and even though they're not around anymore, but it was what's behind the sign that counts. And it had multiple meanings. You can look at that. It's such a cool jingle. And if you guys are listening, don't steal that jingle. This is, but he believed that, being the brand, right? And we've gotten away from that. So people don't even know the brand. They know the agent. The brand's somewhere. Some agents are so arrogant, in my opinion, they won't even put their name's big, and that you got to squint to see who the broker is in the transaction. And there are laws, advertising laws, that are against that in Maryland. I don't know about the rest of the country, but I think that brand is going to come back around. These lawsuits are going to be proof of that brand is going to matter. So if you're a real estate brokerage, you're listening to this, we have a responsibility to make sure that we are managing our agents and the transaction. We've got a system that we built to where, we try and be involved the whole way, despite the agent, and their relationship and things like that. And you call people regularly, and I talk to people and make sure that they're satisfied with the way
Yes.
things are going.
Yes.
And so anyway, that's we'll keep moving. But it is a broken system, and it's about to get fixed. I have a feeling. I think things are going to change. Out with the old, in with the new. I mean, I think if anything else evolves, but we have to make sure that we're careful how this happens, because if not, we're going to hurt the consumers that are suing.
Yeah.
The defendants in this case, right? I'm not saying that there aren't issues with plaintiffs against brokers or agents or anybody for that matter, based on specific transactions. But you can't blanket this thing, in my opinion. It'd be a disaster in itself.
Right. Exactly. And, even if you did a little search on YouTube and pull up these, you're going to see the same things being said, that, change most likely is coming, and that this is something that's very serious and taken seriously.
Okay, I want to talk about the part where somewhere in here about steering.
Yeah.
So,
There was, I just had that actually.
and by the way, this is billions and billions of dollars. So they say in these allegations that brokerages and National Association of Realtors are responsible for billions, costing consumers billions and billions of dollars. Again, this is a system that's been going on. This has nothing to do with, in my opinion, with this crazy home price situation we have going on for the last 2 years of prices going up 20% a year over year. That's a complete different issue, right? Now, but as we get into this article, there are some questionable statements in here that we should talk about.
I agree. So let's just pull up here where I'm just going to go in here because ultimately the rules of the MLS are the sticking points. When agents collectively refer to as the MLS is actually a web of roughly 600 independent local databases around the country. Nearly 97% of these MLSs are owned or operated by local realtor associations, according to court filings, and are governed by rules mandated by National Association of Realtors. The reach of the MLS is incredibly powerful. Nearly 86% of sellers last year listed their properties on the databases, according to National Association of Realtors. In exchange for this access, the NAR requires sellers who list on the MLS to agree to the cooperative compensation rule. The exception that the seller will pay a commission to the expectation is that the seller will pay a commission to the buyer's agent.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to go too far down the weeds on this.
Yeah.
But as we're talking about the MLS, I mean, there's billions of dollars being made. National Association of Realtors.
Oh,
I mean,
yes.
it's massive, right?
Yep.
I mean, it's and there are things that, I mean, I'm a member, but there are certainly things that I would love to see be different. And, but I think that overall, the association provides a lot of value to both the public and the industry at large. Is it perfect? No. But the MLS is something completely different. I mean, they were the aggregators of it. So what are you going to say that, Google shouldn't be the best search engine that's out there? Are you going to say that YouTube, the platform that you may be watching this video on, shouldn't be, allow advertisers on the platform? I mean, they were the generators of the aggregators of this data.
Right.
And so if we get into, the business component of it, I mean, would you rather, as a buyer, not like the internet and have to depend on a book that gets either updated or not updated, like agents had to have back in the day?
I remember
listing books where you had to go to the agent because you had no way. If anything, let's be thankful for that the MLS is on the internet for you, so you're not stuck with some crappy agent to give you whether the information or not at your fingertips. You can do this yourself, right? And so let's be happy about it. In my opinion, let's be grateful for that things are aggregated. Now, I could dive in and say, no, I'm not happy about, these other companies like Zillow and Trulia and things like that. They've taken over. But hey, it's helping the public, so I'm for that. A lot of people don't realize they're taking agents or advertisers, and when you call about a property, you're not getting the listing agent like a lot of people think that they are. You're getting a buyer's agent that's paying to be there, which is fine. I'm not, again, I don't want to go too far down the weeds on it, but the MLS, thank goodness, is giving the data. Now, the problem I have with the MLS is it's garbage in and garbage out. So, most of the agents, a lot of them are lazy, and they don't fill out the data.
Well, we see that a lot.
And we see it. It's like
inaccurate bedrooms even. I mean, it's just...
There's nothing worse when I got to go through 54 photos to see what the front of the house looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, they put the kitchen as the feature picture, right? So, it's frustrating. You don't know floor plans. You don't know, a lot of times, you don't know the layouts. So I think that if anything, these agents aren't, a lot of agents aren't doing the HOA information.
Yeah.
Their data's not right.
Right.
It's incomplete. And, And if anything, I'm very frustrated about that because it's garbage in, garbage out. Again, there's no checks and balance system, that is saying, hey, now the MLS does have some that required fields, that you can't submit unless they're filled out. But the buyers want a heck of a lot more.
But
than
there's
what
a lot. I
the
mean,
requirements
even
are.
like, for example, with us being in Maryland, the ground rent situation, that sometimes is not accurately polled. And then you don't know if it has, and then you find out, oh, it has ground rent.
Yeah,
and
you
something
should
else.
be advertising the redemption, the ground rent, and what it would be to redeem that.
Yeah, just many things.
And people are like, what the heck's ground rent? It's something that Baltimore is very popular of back in, the early days, the 40s and 50s, and to provide more affordable housing, the developers would own the land and sell you the house, and you'd pay rent on the land. It was a way of making the costs cheaper for you to buy. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like old school stuff.
Yeah, I'm just.
So we get it. Where's
reviewing.
the steering stuff that the article talks about?
Yep, I'm about to get to that point.
Yeah, and guys, we'd love to hear your comments. Keep them coming. We'll try and talk about your comments tonight, and we love to know your thoughts. I don't know where our poll is, but we had a poll on this. It said, "Do you think that agents are for you or for their own,
I want to
interests?"
check that poll
And
real quick.
as far as
oh wow,
it's going through the roof,
So,
man.
yeah.
Y'all think that agents suck?
yeah,
This poll, I mean, I only read that because if you think that an agent only has their best interests at heart, then you think they suck. I mean, that's the bottom line.
I know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's sad that the industry
is
has,
sad.
because I consider myself a professional. I mean, I know a lot of people that, I mean, I fight for my clients. I work hard. Our agents do too. Our brokerage does. I mean, we try. I'm not just saying that. We do. I mean, we try the best that we can to save our buyers money, to make the most money for our sellers. I mean, it depends on who we're representing in the transaction. We go out of our way for customer satisfaction, customer experience. So it does kind of break my heart that the industry, but it's no surprise because I live in it. I see it every day. I get agents that say ridiculous things, and that's why I really want to get into the steering.
It's just
part of the
unfortunate because
article.
either all those people have had a bad experience themselves, or they have friends or family that has as well. So it's just really unfortunate. Now, as far as the part of the steering goes on right here, just to kind of cut in here, but I'm going to give a little recap. So basically what it's saying is the seller's plaintiffs argue they had no choice but to list their homes on an MLS. And that in turn meant they were forced to agree to the rules of the databases, including paying exorbitant commissions to buyers agents who might choose to pass over their properties if they didn't. The first case to reach trial will be Sitzer versus NAR, which was filed in Missouri and is scheduled for an October trial. Total damages in this case, just as Todd had mentioned, could reach nearly $4 billion. In the larger of the two cases, Mohir versus NAR, damages could total more than $40 billion. That case, which was filed in Illinois, would likely reach a trial at the first half of 2024. Brokerages named in the suits either declined to comment or did not respond to requests for comments. Goes on to say, Stephen Brobeck, a senior fellow of the Consumer Federation of America, told me that one of the biggest problems identified in the cases is what's known as steering. Since agents representing buyers can see the promised commission for each home in the MLS, they can discourage their clients from viewing properties with unsatisfactory paydays. The NAR doesn't set a minimum commission that listing brokers need to promise to their counterparts. On the buyer's side, technically, it could be as little as $1. But the going rate is typically between 2.5% and 3% of the total sale price. So anything below that amount means the seller's home could be less likely to get traction.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think that is the biggest argument in the case. And, so the deal here, guys, is that we're dealing with people. And so, Joe, you can pull that down. We're dealing with, what gets back to the agents, not all agents, or not everybody in any industry is all good or honest people. And, I do know that there have been situations where, that conversation has been heard. And, and a lot of it surrounds, and I'm not going to get into specific names and things like that, but, when a lot of the new home construction, new builders, especially, in the last several years, really were kind of not wanting to cooperate with buyers agents. And so they were, it was reflective in, what they were, offering to cooperate. And I know as a result, there has been, situations where people would, and I hate to say it, but, kind of guide somebody away from that because of the commission. I can't fathom that being the case. And, and it really disturbs me to think that way. But because a fiduciary should not be doing that. That should not be even on. If the idea of a fiduciary, guys, is to put someone else's, your client's needs above your own. And that includes commissions, right? If it's the right place. And what I tell my agents all the time, and this is going to come as a shock to you guys, is that, nowhere in my licensing agreement with the state of Maryland does it say that I am only to show houses on the multiple list. And a lot of agents won't show for sale by owners. They don't even consider it. And I'll say to them, like, you're looking for your client. Did you look for sale for sale by owners? And they'll say, well, like, why would I do that? Well, I mean, I don't get paid a commission to do that. It's like, whoa, hold on. That's what your buyer agency agreement is with your buyer. Because not everything, and this is the problem. So your buyer moves into a house that you sell them on the MLS, and the neighbor comes over and says, hey, welcome to the neighborhood. But I'm just kind of curious, why didn't you buy the house on the back side of this street? It's exact layout, same age. It's actually a little bit nicer, and it was sold for less money. It was a for sale by owner. And the buyer says, I didn't even know about it, right? And you go, well, wait a minute. Well, did your agent know what was going on in the neighborhood, that there was even a for sale by owner? So, did the agent reach out to the for sale by owner and ask, if I bring you a buyer, would you pay me a commission? Did that agent even ask, right? So I think a lot of this is, again, guys, we're coming down to the brass tacks here, is that it really is, you've got to layer this thing and call it. You can't come in and say that the system is bad. What you have to do is you have to educate consumers on what they should be doing. And that's what we try and do. What should you ask? How should you handle this? Because if you're looking at a house, you should consider a for sale by owner, right? So, I think the issue is that is a real potential right there, that, this could be something to where, it lays a very good argument. And I think that's where the disadvantage is of, the pressure or where the seller says, look, if we don't offer this on the other side, then we may get passed by. That's what this argument is. But let me tell you what the internet has done and what the MLS, and I'll get back to that, because this is why the MLS is so powerful and so good, because buyers are smart. So let's say, and I know the routine very well. A buyer is not going to rely on Todd Sachs and company to give you an email every single day, though we do it. We send it out through the MLS on the available houses that meet the parameters for you to buy, right? Because you're going to already have that. You're going to already have that set up probably before you even have an agent. You're going to go to Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com. You're going to put your parameter in. You're going to save your searches, and you're going to get those emails quicker in some cases than the MLS or the agent sending them to you. That's a big pet peeve of mine, because, Zillow, they all aggregate this data faster and get it to you quicker a lot of times than what we get it to you. But here's the thing. What you're going to say to your agent is, well, why didn't you show me this property? I'm just kind of curious. Like, this property on 123 Main Street just popped up. It was emailed. I got it all in Zillow, and you didn't send me this. Why didn't you send me this? Hey, there's a good argument, right? Now, let me tell you something. If that agent has the audacity to say, well, I didn't send it to you because there wasn't enough for me or whatever, hey, get that in writing.
Yeah.
Right? Have them send you that email in writing, because that should be prohibited all across the board. Because if you have an agency agreement with somebody, they should be representing you and looking out for your best interests, regardless of whether they're making a penny, right? That's up to them to negotiate. And that's why I say I don't agree with the standard terminology. This is standard, that's standard. It's not. This isn't, we would be offending or breaking anti-Sherman trust laws if we were price fixing and things like that. You can't do that, right? So that's another thing to be very educated on. If your agent says, oh, this is the going rate, get away. Get away. They're giving you wrong information. They're being taught wrong, right? And that's coming from the top of the organization. Mm-hmm. Or they're just doing things that they shouldn't be doing or saying.
What do you think, talking about that the buyers potentially may have to pay their agent commission? We got a comment here. Lenders are not going to allow the commissions to be added to the loan.
I mean, that's what this argument, this court case is proposing or alluding to, is that the lenders are going to finance the commission rates, right? I mean, it's absolute insanity. This is going to hurt consumers, right? It's going to hurt consumers. They're going to say, look, news alert. People don't have enough money for a down payment and closing costs. They're going to pay for their commission to their agent. Someone's going to get in a car and drive around and work for you and, go see 30 homes, put in 25 offers for you negotiate and go to your home inspections. They better be going to your home inspections, right? That's another thing, pet peeve of mine. Agents not showing up for home inspections. So there's a lot of reason why these polls are very off-sided. And, and we have a real estate channel that, we're going to be, specifically for real estate agents and things like that. We're going to start doing, a lot of opinion-based professional training for these agents that need it, that aren't getting it at their current brokerage. You can go to Sachs Realty all the way down at the bottom of our page and our channel, and it's called Real Estate Agent. You can link onto that even if you're just a consumer and you want to know as we're uploading content there. But I mean, not enough said on that.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy, and that's a lot of you that have voted and on the poll, and it's we've said it. It's sad. It's a sad situation.
Do I believe that lenders are going to pay for real estate commissions? I don't know. Lenders, they get hungry too. They might say, "Hey, use us for your loan, and we'll give you up to X amount of dollars for your real estate commission."
We'll see how quickly they can change a program overnight to be able to, make the deal work. I can see them. They're going to figure it out. They're going to have to. They're going to want to get the transaction done. So how about this one? How can you know if you are getting a good agent?
Well, I mean, you can get reviews. You can interview. You can get reviews. Look at their reviews. You can talk to past clients. Find out how the transaction was. Ask what their client, what the most stressful part of the transaction was. How did the agent get them through it? Would they use that agent again? Because a lot of times people don't give reviews. I mean, you can push. A lot of people aren't comfortable going on to a site and registering even to put their name out there to give a review. You can ask for, some, for some clients. And here's the thing. You would say, well, the agent's only going to give me good people to talk to. Call them anyway, because, and I know this from contracting, your client is going to be brutally honest with someone calling them, unless they're a friend and it's a sham show. Is that a thing?
A sham show?
Sham show.
I like it.
Yeah, and unless it's some kind of a setup, which if you have real good questions, you'll be able to cut through it. But I can't tell you how many times your client will, somebody's client will be like, you know what, I'll be honest with you, overall, I think they're great, but this was the problem or that was the problem. When they're removed from the transaction, I believe that people, they're going to be honest with you, unless, like I said, it's your best friend. You got to come up with questions that will kind of set the stage too. And by the way, we're going to have a lot of good, I know I've talked about it before, our website's getting ready to launch. We're hoping that it'll be up next week.
Yes.
It's going to be a work in progress. So the only way that we can test a lot of these links and things like that is to make it live, because it's in beta right now. But I think you guys are going to enjoy it. You'll be able to go on and find good agents, and you'll click on a state, a city, drop down. We'll have great agents on the site, as well as lenders, title companies, and insurance companies. And we will eventually get to even contractors. We're hoping to really expand this and provide you with a lot of value. But my point is, to this question on how do you know you're getting a good agent, we will have a lot of free downloads that you'll be able to just click on and download, interview,
Lists. Yeah.
questions and things like that. How to interview a listing agent, how to interview a buyer's agent, and you can just print them off and just keep it at your appointment, right on your dining room table, and just go down and ask the questions. We feel that it will be very helpful to you, and you can pass it along to the people that that are buying and selling too, because you should be asking a lot of questions. And when I talk to, guys, we get a lot of you that reach out, that you call in, you send emails, and, a lot of times we hear, you just went with your friend from high school or your sister or whatever, you're not doing any interviewing. If I say, well, how many agents did you interview? I say, well, we didn't interview. We didn't interview anybody. And amazing how many sellers do the same thing. And that's a mistake. If you're a seller and you're hiring an agent, you want an agent that's familiar with your neighborhood, your area. And because if they live 45 or 50 minutes away and you get a windstorm and the sign ends up in your neighbor's shrub, it will be until you tell them that the sign is gone in your neighbor's yard, you're going to be upset because 2 weeks goes by and the sign's not fixed because it's an hour away from them, 45, 50 minutes away. They're not going to drive out there. Maybe some agents will, but you've got to have somebody that's familiar with the neighborhood, lives close by, is a neighborhood expert. And that's why it's easy for you to tell your mother you're not going to use her best friend because she lives 45 minutes away or an hour away from you, and you need somebody that is knowledgeable of the neighborhood and is going to be there on a regular and continual basis through the process. It won't be inconvenient for them to visit your house, check things. The other thing is, the other thing is, you want to make sure that if you're going to hire your mother's best friend that lives 45 minutes away, at least interview the neighborhood expert or the one that is familiar with the neighborhood. At least interview them, get their opinion on it, because they'll probably have a good idea and tell you what you should be able to sell it for. What can you sell it for? Better than somebody that doesn't know the area. Maybe they've even sold 4 or 5 houses in the last year in that neighborhood. They know the buyers. They know, what people are looking for, what's important to them. So they, I encourage you. That even goes here in Maryland. If you're here, you should be interviewing other agents, not just calling us up and saying, hey, we want your business. We should earn your business. We should earn it through our interview, through your interview process. So, I'm not just, putting it out there, as we're different. You should interview us too.
Yeah. Yeah, you should. And everyone does start somewhere. We talk about the neighborhood expert, but I think that, if they come with a team and they have people that back them up, and maybe it's an additional agent that's going to help you. Because I do believe, on the flip side of that these agents, if they really want to be a quality agent, they're going to have the backing, the mentorship, and all of that. So just don't count them too.
That's true. And you got to watch it with teams too, because a lot of times, and this would be on our, questionnaire for interviewing agents. If you're a listing agent and you're hiring a team, and we don't have teams, and the reason is because I don't believe in them.
Yeah.
And again, if you're on a team or building a team, you may not like that, but that's up to you. I'm not telling you, you be you. But the reason I don't like them is I've seen where the team is not relying on the leadership of the brokerage or the management of the brokerage. They act out as if they're their own entity, a broker, and that can be problematic too. And what happens when you're interviewing teams, and I know there are going to be a lot of people that are upset with me saying this, but there are a lot of people that when you're selling your house, a lot of times, unless you're moving far away and the buyers, your agent doesn't know that area where you're moving, but a lot of times they won't let that listing agent be the buyer's agent too, even if it's right next door, the next neighborhood over. They separate them, buyer's agents, seller's agents. And I think that that's a big mistake, because what happens, and this is one of the primary reasons I'm not about the team models, is because you want to have an intimacy, a relationship with the person that is representing you. And if you have a listing agent that is coming to you, seeing you, you don't want somebody just to sell you, and then all of a sudden somebody else comes in and does the open houses. Somebody else comes and does this. I believe in assisting, but when your agent steps out of the role, they remove themselves from the reason why you hired them in the first place. It's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. So I think that the relationship that you have, if an agent is doing this business well, if you look at a lot of the agents that have been in it, and a good agent doesn't mean they've been in the business forever either, because there's some bad tenured agents out there. But what happens is, one of the reasons why they get all the referrals is because of the relationship that they have. And that's important. That's the core. When you have a fiduciary and you have somebody that's got your back, you don't want to do another transaction without them. You don't want to be without them assisting you, right? So, and they're going to sell you better than you can sell yourself to all their family, all their friends. They're going to be your biggest advocates. And I think that's what we're missing in this conversation when people say that they feel like the agent. There are tons of agents out there that are so good. They're so professional. I know it seems rare and hard to find and few and far between, but when you can find them. Mm-hmm. You can find them. You can. When I'm dealing with them on the other side of the transaction, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know this transaction is going to be reasonable, right? And because I'm going to not have to track somebody down or call them 15 times, leave messages. I'm sorry, I don't answer phone calls. Please send me a text message. Whatever, right? So anyway,
yeah.
Any questions? We can.
Yeah, just talking about a listing agent, quality listing agent. So this viewer just made a comment here. My next door neighbor has been trying to sell his home for months. He moved out of state for a job. His grass hasn't been cut in a long time. Nobody is going to buy his house looking like that. The listing agent should know that he's out of town and be able to facilitate things like that, to be able to not have the grass.
Yeah, and I think this is a big thing, is a lot of agents believe that things are out of their scope, and some of this can be as a default of bad training. And I know I can remember in being in going through my salesperson classes, well before I took the broker courses and sat for that exam, they would tell you in some cases that you are only there to bring and it's written down somewhere, that your sole job is to bring a buyer to the transaction. Find a buyer that is ready, willing, and able, I think is the exact terminology. Mm-hmm. And that's it. And in fact, an agent doesn't even need to go to settlement. That their agency agreement only, you earn your commission. We're talking about this topic.
Yeah.
You earn your commission upon bringing a ready, able, and willing buyer to your property, right? If you're a seller's agent, you're to find a buyer. If you're a buyer's agent, you're solely to find a seller, pair you up with that house, get it under contract, and see you later. That's kind of like the rules. But good real estate agents know that that's just not the way it is. I drive a truck. I throw stuff away. I haul stuff to the dump. I move furniture. I can't tell you all the things that I do. I mean, I go there, I clean. I mean, I've swept the floors in the house to take pictures because they're not ready to do it. So we just had grass cut.
We
for
just did last
a
week.
listing that's coming on the market. So
Yes.
we meet contractors out on. I mean, it goes on and on and on of what makes a good agent, and they're the ones that stand out. They're the ones that become your best friends and your extended family, because that's the relationship that I'm talking about. When you find an agent like that, they're good. They're good. When we're looking at this and we're trying to blanket that all brokers or all agents are bad, it saddens me because it's just not true.
Oh, and you want to set everyone up for success. You want everyone to, put the best foot forward, best presentation of yourself. So yeah, whatever you can do to assist in that. So got a question here
Do
about.
we have any mean comments?
Nothing yet. More laptop questions.
Oh,
comments.
Melissa's laptop. We were
My
all
laptop.
hiding behind it.
Yeah.
All three
It's
of
okay.
us.
They love it.
We're
They
hiding behind it.
love
You're-
the laptop, which is funny. So, yeah, makes me laugh. Why is wholesaling a property not illegal? They are unlicensed and in direct competition to a licensed realtor.
States are making it illegal, and I think, and here's another thing, I'll get all these wholesalers upset with me. It's impossible not to make somebody mad tonight. This has been an argument. I've had videos. If you search, you want to see, I don't know what the title is, but go to our channel and search wholesaling, because I covered this. And, I know there's a lot of wholesalers out there that work really hard to, earn a living, and there are probably some good ones out there too. But I don't believe in that should be allowed. I think the wholesaling should not be allowed unless you're a licensed agent, and then it can't be a net listing. So a net listing is where you agree to a price with. I'm not an attorney. I'm a real estate broker, but a net listing, you can look it up. You agree to a price with the seller, and then you sell that house for X amount of dollars, and you keep the money. That's a net listing, right? That shouldn't be allowed. That is what basically wholesaling is. You're seeing what you can get the seller to sell it for, and then you're the middleman, an unlicensed middleman in most cases, that are just then getting a buyer to pay for a different price, with a wholesaling fee being yours versus a commission. The problem with this is that the wholesalers are putting it out there to a limited market. Now, if the wholesaler was putting it on the MLS and it was a title called wholesaler and they put it on the MLS and people could competitively bid on it, then that would be good for the seller. The wholesaler's argument is, look, this house isn't for every seller. It needs a lot of work, whatever. They need quick cash. Let me tell you something, man. I can close a house fast on the MLS. As long as that title is clear, and I have a title company that is willing to put it priority, we could probably close in 7 days. So as quick as any wholesaler can go out and try and hustle up a buyer in their contract period of 2 weeks or whatever, I can put it on the MLS in existing condition. I can market that property to, hundreds of thousands or millions of eyeballs. I can get competitive bids on that no matter what condition it is. There's our wholesaling video.
Yep.
Wholesaling houses. You guys can check it out. I made a lot of wholesalers upset with that video because I believe that they should not be allowed to do it unless they're licensed. And here's the question, guys. Then what? When do you turn on and off your licensee responsibilities? You go, well, if I do it this way, I could maybe make more money than whatever. The goal here is it's a loophole. The loophole is you need a license to sell real estate in all 50 states and the District of Columbia. You need a license to sell real estate. The loophole is that they're selling a contract. They're not selling real estate. They're selling a contract, which is hogwash, right? I mean, to me, come on. That's ridiculous. You're selling a house. You're marketing a house. You're selling a house. You're not selling a contract. The question is, who is representing the seller? And here's what happens. You find out that mom, who's 95 years old, went to a wholesaler. The wholesaler, didn't get the price that they should have. And the parents, and the kids are really upset. And they feel like mom was hustled. That's the problem. That's the issue, right? So, I'm not saying all wholesalers are bad. If you're a wholesaler, maybe you've got a great system and it works well. But if I were wholesaling, I'd be telling people, for legal reasons, I'd be saying, you could probably make more money if you put this on the MLS. And I'd be making sure that I had that documented, that I had that conversation with them and they were of sound mind. And they knew it, because I think that there's going to be more complaints on this coming down the pike. And, if you want to sell real estate, get your license.
Valid point. We have another comment here. That is wrong steering, what we just were discussing. I see it all the time. Agents will skip a home for sale if the commission is 2%. Sometimes seller cannot afford to pay more due to the home equity, etc.
Again, the commission, and I appreciate this comment, and the commission is negotiated between the listing broker and the seller, right? The MLS requirement is $1. You have to offer something. You could offer $1 on the other side. Now, would you have agents that wouldn't show you the house? The argument becomes, are you still going to see it on the MLS, like I mentioned? If you see it on the MLS, you're going to say to your agent, I want to see this house. And then that agent is going to have to tell you, well, they're only offering $1 and I'm not willing to show it to you. And that's another issue, right? That's when you say, can you send me that in an email? Right? That's when you ask them to reply to that in an email. Because that is not being a fiduciary. Now, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, there's a lot of, out of this, everything I've read on the lawsuits, in my opinion, this has the biggest argument in the case, because by human nature, there will be people that won't show the property because of it.
That's right.
Right, but be prepared for what's to come next is paying for your own agent.
Yep.
If this thing keeps, its current path.
Let's talk about really quick. We had someone here ask a question about arms, Todd. Hey, Todd and Melissa, I'm in the process of closing on a home and I am highly considering an ARM, which provides a 10-year fixed on the front, and I'm buying half a point. I will refinance.
Yeah, you hope.
Right. I mean, that's not a guarantee.
No. I mean, if you're going to stay there, for more than 10 years, I mean, if you're fixed for 10 years, I mean, that's, if I have to say, that's pretty good. But the question is, if this is a forever home, or you think that you may be there for 15 years, the issue becomes, that you'd be relying on interest rates to be lower than what they are now. I mean, you're buying a half a percentage point, which is costly. I mean, it's expensive buying points. But the question is, will we see, and I don't know where you're locked in at right now, but if you're locked in at maybe 6.5%, you have to gamble with, will we be looking at interest rates that could be over 8 or 10% in 10 years? And I mean, I think it's too risky. 7.7%, I think, is the 50-year average. It's gone up and down. I don't think that it's practical. I think the Fed, gosh, we got a video that's coming out I'm working on right now where I'm looking at the last 3 recessions and sort of looking at some of the same decisions that are being made over and over again, and sort of how we're still using the same things that don't seem to work. And this time it got way out of control, because I believe that it was a huge mistake of the Fed to leave interest rates at 0%, near 0% for the overnight trading rate, where money is bought and sold to lend. And we gave a false sense of belief that a 4% mortgage is sustainable when we look at the historical trends, that we've never seen that before since prior to the Great Recession of 2008. But I think that we could be in 8 to 10s is not an unrealistic 30-year mortgage rate or 40-year mortgage rate. So I don't like ARMs. I mean, you have to make that decision yourself, but if rates don't go down and you can't refinance, and a lot of things have to happen if you just bought your house or you're closing, depending on where you bought in the price range, whether there's going to be any further correction to that, it could take 10 years to even get to the price of where you are right now. If we see what I still believe we're going to start to see, and that's, some major price correcting in the market. I think right now we're still propping things up. We've got election year coming up. There's still stimulus being made to keep people from going under in foreclosures. The list goes on and on. We're paying off $50,000 and here in the state of Maryland, and if you qualify for your student loan debt,
right?
When you buy a house. So I think that there's a lot of things we're taking. A lot of people don't realize if they're in default, 30% of their balance can be taken out of the principal balance and cast into a 0% no payment on your new loan amount to be paid at the end of the 30 years when your mortgage is paid off. And then they're remodifying that 70% of the loan over 40 years. So they're dropping people's payments. A lot of that's preventing a lot of inventory that would be otherwise hitting the market. So, but I do think we're going to see a lot of Airbnbs hit the market.
Yes.
Profits are down across the country on that. Over 1 million houses. If we look at if 35% of those houses start to hit the market, that's 350,000 homes nationwide that could very easily hit the market here in the next 6 months, as people are starting to pay more for heating and cooling costs, maintenance cost to the house, less profit. I think that's a big thing. A lot of people will be getting rid of these extra, empty vacation houses that they never go to, that they realize they bought a condominium in Florida and they haven't been in 2 years. So that could just add to the adjusting of the home prices in America, as we're catching up. The Fed has recently announced that because the Fed paused this past meeting, that they think that more rate hikes are to come.
Yep.
It takes up to 4 years, for a lot of these interest rate hikes to take the toll on the consumers. $1 trillion in credit card debt. I could go on and on and on, but I think that, so what you're doing is by asking, can you refinance? Or you're saying, I will refinance. In 10 years, your house may be worth the same amount of money. So the loan requirements may change where you need to come out of pocket with more cash just to refinance. And then there are fees that are associated with refinancing. So if the interest rate doesn't go down much, it may not even be worth it to refinance. So I don't like ARMs.
Yeah.
I think that the longer you can lock in on a payment, you never know. Life happens. You never know what's going to happen. You can always pay it off sooner. Pay down, double your payments, triple your payments if you're planning on staying. And really weigh the pros and cons of the extra amount of the interest.
And if you're just doing it because it's going to fit into your amount that you can monthly pay for a mortgage, you really need to rethink about that too, because no one should be, if it's not comfortable. If it's not comfortable at the fixed 30-year rate, it's probably just not advisable to do that.
Yep.
Okay, we do have some more questions here. You guys are very active on the comments and questions tonight.
Lighten us up.
Yep, definitely. But there was
all kind comments.
There was really no one being
comments.
Being
we're
nasty.
Talking such a controversial issue here.
I know.
They said it all in the poll.
Yeah. Well, let's just look at that one more time.
What's that? 82%.
82%
believe that agents think about themselves over others, over their client.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
I know.
We appreciate your your honesty.
Definitely. We have
We got a lot of work to do.
we have
We
a
got a
lot
lot
of
of
work
work to do to make some impact in this industry.
Well, this is actually a very good point. So you got Michelle here. There are some pretty agents. There needs to be an ethics continually mandatory monthly. You have talked about continuing ed, Todd, that we do not have nearly enough. I hear these agents talk and the shenanigans they brag about. It's embarrassing. Our profession is a joke.
Oh, man, so it's funny because I remember when I first got my broker license, the local board came and congratulated me. And I had been a member prior as a licensed salesperson with another brokerage. And, the question was asked, like, are you going to join a committee? Or are you going to become a member of the board? And, I think I said something like, yeah, I think that'd be great. I would propose that we triple the fees and that we triple the amount of education required for a licensee to keep their license.
Yeah.
Not just 15 hours of continuing education in 2 years. And I wasn't asked to join. I think that ended that. I mean, that was pretty much, like, okay, well, thanks very much. And I think that, you have to look at it as one of the reasons why this industry is riddled with so many people that don't like real estate agents and why we're compared to other industries. And I'm not knocking on the used car salesman, but we get compared to that. It's like we're like used car salesmen. Some of the comments that I read.
That's come up tonight.
It's come up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, and I don't know in what point along the last 50 years or 100 years, whenever the automobile started, that used car salesmen, people started to be considered so bad or shady, and maybe movies or true life or whatever. But my point is that one of the reasons why these opinions is because when a lot of people, when all else fails in life, they say, well, I can always sell real estate. And, and that's one of the issues that I have with part-timers, not dual career, but true part-time agents, is that they're not doing enough of it to be able to service the people properly. Now, if they're teamed up with somebody else who's going to handle a lot of the oversight, then that's one argument. The argument is, well, you have to start somewhere. Yeah, that's right. You have to start somewhere, but let's stay close to somebody, shadow professionals for a while, like other industries that have, journeyman programs and allow people to do that. If we're going to elevate the most expensive purchase that people make in their entire life, if we are going to limit the requirements and the barrier to entry, allow it to be so low, of course we're going to get what we expect at that point, right? And I'm not making that as a dig. This is fact, right? If you don't make it, if you don't make it hard to get in a true professional industry, if you don't have that, if you're going to be an attorney, you have to look what you have to do. You have to go to college. You have to go to law school. You have to pass the bar exam, right? And so, I mean, let's face it here. But yet we're expecting real estate agents to write addendums. They're not supposed to, right? I mean, an agent can be accused of being an attorney that's practicing law without a law license. That is a charge, right? So if we're saying that the only thing you're supposed to do is go out and find a buyer and go out and find a seller, well, essentially what you're saying is but yet at on the state level, you're charged with being a fiduciary and putting somebody else's needs above your own. It's kind of contradictory in my opinion. So, how do we get it back? How do we bring it in? I think we need to save the industry. The agents need to rise up. The brokers need to rise up and say, look, this isn't about numbers. This isn't about quantity. This is about quality. And we need to start going after the consumers with a passion of their 100% customer satisfaction and their experience is the most important thing too, right? That they have the best experience. And they're the agents that are going to win, guys. They're the ones that you have to go to. They're the ones that are going to go through any of this stuff that is going on right now with these lawsuits of upset consumers and lawyers willing to take the cases and argue the cases. At the end of the day, we should look at this as an opportunity to bring to the public something that is really needed, and that is service.
Yeah. Then you had a comment here. I remember our ex-realtor bragging about how she's the top seller in her office and in the area. We quickly learned it was from bamboozling people into buying houses without inspections and houses.
Hey, look, I got to tell you, I'll share this scenario. You know, we had an agent. It was, I won't go into too many of the specifics, but I was entertaining at the house. And the phone rang, and it was my agent, and my agent was really upset. And they had said that the buyer, our buyer, had gone to an open house, and there was an agent sitting at the open house that said that if they lost their agent, that there could be a financial benefit of buying that house. Mm-hmm. I was like, what? You've got to be kidding me. So anyway, so what did I do? I called the agent, who I knew.
Of course.
And you remember this.
I remember.
And they admitted it.
Yep.
I was like, wow. And then I called my attorney, and my attorney said, well, they really didn't break the law the way it was done. And I'm going, okay, they may not have broken a law, but that's pretty crappy, pretty unethical. So, you really, there's what's the term? You got to cut the grass to see the snake sometimes. I mean, you got to, you have to dive in. And that's why I say it's so important to interview. The interview process is so important. You guys are making big mistakes. You're making big mistakes out there, and it's harming you financially. And, we're seeing it. We're hearing it. We're, the emails are telling us this. We're reading the court dockets on cases. We're seeing where, we are failing as an industry in many ways. But the consumers have to, caveat emptor, buyer beware. You have to be, and I'm not pushing the kick in the can, but the problem is that if you don't interview well on the front end, you're diminishing your chances of being satisfied with the transaction.
Yeah. I agree.
How are we doing on time? About 9:30.
Good.
We'll take a couple more questions.
Yeah.
And we'll call it a night.
That sounds
We love
great.
you guys. We appreciate you. I know we've had some great comments tonight.
We have.
The poll is not surprising. I'm glad. I appreciate your honesty on that everybody really let it rip on that. And let's take a couple more questions.
I'm just gonna hop over there. Yeah, it's still it's hanging there. It's really not.
It's
moving
not
at all.
changing.
No,
Yeah.
it's not. It's not. It's eye opening for sure. But I also am not surprised, unfortunately. How about we go with this one, TJ? Todd, house with a popcorn ceiling. Is that a reason to not buy it? Asbestos?
No, I mean popcorn ceilings. I mean that was just a big thing. I mean I don't know if it's asbestos or not, but I mean I haven't seen any of them that would contain asbestos. It's just the like drywall compound essentially, and it's blown onto the ceiling. It was a cheap way of doing it back in the day, where popular in the 80s and the 90s, where you didn't have to finish it off. Ceilings are hard to finish. They're probably the hardest to finish with the taping the joints and things like that. So it was a way of just basically making it look better. I mean, if you're concerned that it has asbestos, I don't know that it would. That's a good question. I mean, you could certainly get it tested, TJ. But I know, it dates a house.
Yeah.
Big time. Really dates a house. So it's kind of easy to take off. It's just a mess. You know, I've gotten into a couple projects where, you know, I've scraped it off and stuff, but you just wet it down, but it's a pain in the neck.
Right. How about this statement here? Lower buyer agent sales commissions are usually a result of the listing agent accepting a lower total commission to get the listing. Then they pay the buyer's agent less instead of them taking less. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, again, I mean, this is all negotiated
Right.
between the listing broker, the selling broker, or the seller's broker, not the selling broker, but the seller's broker. And, you know, look, guys, I mean, I've preached it for years. Our whole company, I mean, we help buyers, but we have a whole sort of division to serve sellers. And, you know, because I believe that you have to, it's hard for agents getting into the business to sell somebody's house because they don't have a history of being able to list and sell a house. So most agents, the newer agents, start out with the buyers. And then if you're in the industry long enough, 5 to 7 years, then you start to get listings because if you're staying in touch with your buyers, they become sellers. So it is an easier way to kind of get into the listing game. But there's a saying in the business that you have to list to last. And I believe that you do have to focus on trying to gain sellers. You'll get, because, and if you're, and look, and I'm just talking about business economics here. If I go after a seller, right, there's a good chance that I'm going to have a buyer too. So, you know, just practicality, right? If I'm selling somebody's house, I'm hoping that I'm helping them buy a house. So for agents that are more established, they know that that is a way of increasing their annual revenue and serving a fair amount of sellers. But not just that. That's not the only reason why people focus on trying to build a business of having more listings than not. Exactly this court case that's coming up. I've been saying for years, Melissa, before this court case.
I know.
Okay. I've been saying for years, or maybe not from the one in 2015, but when we opened up in 2017.
As long as I've been around.
What I've always have been stressing to our agents is, look, buyer agency could go away.
Yeah.
Buyer agency could go away because it does have its legal arguments against it. I mean, essentially, like the one said, I paid that agent to negotiate against me. That's why they make it to the payment to the listing broker, and the listing broker cooperates. It's not meant to be a check written from the seller directly to the buyer's agent. That's the argument here.
Yep.
That's the big argument. So I do believe that one day we could be saying bye-bye to buyer agency. So that's not bye-bye.
No.
Bye now. Bye-bye. Bye. That's
And
bye-bye.
I just want to have a shout out here to Jeff M, because this is
Hey,
amazing
Jeff.
news. Hey, y'all, I'm closing on my first home July 10th. I got the deal of a lifetime. Thank you all for the continued support. Such a great community you all have here. Amazing.
Yeah, Jeff, congratulations. Man. Thank you for
Congratulations.
sharing that. You have been a longtime contributor to our comments.
Yes.
I can't believe, how long have we been doing this Tuesday Night Podcast?
So I think it will be in August. It will be 3 years.
Wow. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
I know.
Yeah.
Flying
there
by.
we go. Jeff, 4 bed, 3 bath, 2 car, 1,800 square feet. All right. Open kitchen floor plan. That's awesome. Childhood neighborhood. 2 blocks from my whole family.
family.
Good for you, man.
3
That's off
offers,
to you.
15K above mine, and then they went in with mine because of my letter. Oh, the love letter.
Yep. And we got Lexi in there too. We know
Yep.
what's Lexi saying here.
And she's been she's got some exciting stuff going on as well.
She does. If she didn't shout it, I don't want to give it up.
No.
But, we are really fortunate to be helping Lexi
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the transaction.
Yep. Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right.
Good
So
stuff.
is it a wrap?
Let's do one more.
All right. One more.
Let's just do, because I did see, how about this one? Because I saw this one. As a buyer paying cash, is it ever a good idea to propose an additional amount of cash to the agent as an incentive to look at and bring to the buyer those listed with a low commission?
Better be to the broker. Any kind of payments better not go straight to the agent. That would be, that would not be good.
That would not be good.
Yeah. So, the broker is in control of all compensation, right? So to the agent, you do not want to pay an agent direct. If the agent's telling you, hey, give me a little bit of this or that or whatever, and I'll see that you get that. No, that better never be happening. There is definitely some nasty implications, as it should be, for that type of behavior. But I have seen, and I want to talk about this, and it's just really kind of spurring some comments that I want to make, and I want to be careful too when I say it because, this is a hot topic. But there are situations where there is a bonus that could be made available to the buyer's agent. I've seen that. But then again, you just have to be really careful with this one because it is a slippery slope. And, we know that people can be enticed by, bonuses and checks and things like that. I would discourage it from happening. But what I want to say is that years ago, so this whole thing's been evolving. But years ago, there was a brokerage that, because a broker can be a dual agent, so you can represent as a broker, you can represent a buyer and a seller. As I had stated before, there is confidentiality in the deal. At least this is the way we do it in Maryland, because the broker will appoint a buyer and seller agent, and they are not allowed to talk about the confidentiality of the deal to one another, even though they're in the same brokerage. But this broker actually gave more of an financial incentive to deals that were handled completely in-house. Like the listing was the broker's and the buyer bought the broker's client's listing. That ended. I don't know of any of that going on. But again, a lot of the industry has been sort of, in consulting with the changes of the time and consulting with their legal team, have said like that could be, and I get it because everything is negotiable. It's not that this broker was doing anything wrong. They were just offering a higher cut in this situation to the agents involved, but it still could be looked at as, even though there was really nothing wrong with it, but it could be viewed by the public as a type of steering and incentivizing. So I think that we've got to be real careful when we're having talks about commissions and fees. You need to know as the public that everything is negotiable, and it is up to you to negotiate your deal with your listing broker or your buyer broker. And, and we'll stay close to this case. And, until next time, guys, we appreciate you spending your Tuesday night with us. We love you. And I want to say, too, I'm kind of curious as what you think about our real estate Q&A. We started this new thing, where we kind of take over the week the top, and I'm not even saying top, but what we would consider to be the highest public interest questions or comments, what the masses may want to know, not just somebody's specific question. And we bring them to you. We try and bring you 5 of them a week. It's something new that we've been doing. You can let us know in the comments below if you like that, because we definitely don't want to be giving you things that you don't want to watch.
Right.
And I've had it both sides. Somebody said, like, we're doing less educational and, more Q&A. We have backed off some of the videos during the week just because we've been so freaking busy.
I know.
And we got a new playlist coming to you with highest and lowest, where we've been doing traveling and going to different cities. So we're trying to still bring you content that you love and that you want to hear. But what I am curious about your real estate Q&As, if you could drop those in the comments below, we'd love to read them, and it would help us to know whether we continue to go on with this. And as always, guys, if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing. Hit that alert bell. You'll know every time we upload content. And if you like the video, you can let us know.
By giving us a thumbs up.
Yeah.
There we go. And share it with all your friends. And thank you guys so much. You guys were hopping in the comments and questions tonight. So in the chat. So thank you for everything. It was a good show.
We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.